and welcome to Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Discover 2024, coming to you from Las Vegas. I'm Daisy McAndrew. This week we've heard some really exciting new announcements coming from HPE, including advancements in the partnership between HPE and NVIDIA, and new capabilities that take HPE and its AI offerings to another level. HPE President and CEO Antonio Neri made history delivering the first ever keynote from the iconic Sphere here in Vegas. And I'm delighted to say he joins me now in the studio. Antonio, thank you so much for popping by. Wow, you've made a few headlines this week. You've been very, very busy. Take me through some of the biggest announcements you've made here, and particularly on that stage at Sphere.
Well, thank you, Daisy, for covering again HPE Discover. It's an amazing venue. Yeah. We have 15,000 customers here with us, and it has been a remarkable start. I mean, the keynote was a specific moment in time, but obviously it was about the announcements and the fact that Jensen Huang was with me making those announcements. The whole thing was about AI and how we accelerate AI to basically help enterprises achieve this generative AI industrial revolution. And at the core of those announcements was the experience, how we deliver an integrated experience for those enterprises to adopt this technology much faster than they have done so far. And AI is complex. It requires a lot of integration, and we made it so simple. In fact, the HPE Private Cloud AI, you can deploy with 3 clicks and in 24 seconds. That's how simple it was. That was the core message that we delivered yesterday.
And so when it comes to working out what that means on a practical basis for customers, obviously you said it can be 3 clicks, implication being that it's all about speed and simplicity, but how will that affect how customers experience that?
So we wanted the customers not to focus on the technology per se, but to focus on the business side. Identify the use cases, get the data prepared against those use cases, and bring this simplicity for them from a technology integration standpoint so they can achieve the business outcomes they're looking for without spending so much friction and time on the technology integration. And this is the thing that we work with Jensen. Obviously, we both support the largest supercomputers built today on the planet. We support the generative AI model builders and the large hyperscalers and the cloud providers and any service providers that want to get in the game. But it was about enterprise. You know, when I think about enterprise, we talk about millions of enterprises. And that's the goal, is to reach those millions of enterprises so they can adopt the technology to change the way they do business, because at the core is digitizing their processes and then integrating AI in those processes so they can accelerate productivity or accelerate drug research, or whether it is computer vision and other things. That was the core. That was the benefit for it.
And of course, one of the things that everybody here at Discover has been saying is AI does change everything.
It does.
And I guess in some ways it changes the role of a leader like you as well. It changes the way that you approach certain issues.
It will change your role too.
Yeah, oh yeah, I know.
And obviously there is a lot of skepticism today out there. People start not believing what is being said, what they see and the like. And so one of the things I address right up front is the 5 key ethical principles that we need to guide ourselves for. It needs to be human focused, it needs to be safe, it needs to have security built at the core, and basically drive the privacy, right, that we all actually have the right to. But when I think about the workforce of the future, including me as a CEO or you as a reporter and anchor, actually everybody needs to have a minor in AI. We all need to understand this technology, how to use it for your benefit and for the benefit of others. That was the key moment to me.
Exactly. So it's great. It's very exciting, but it comes with huge responsibility. And finally, Antonio, how does this change HPE's position vis-a-vis your competitors?
Yeah. Well, last night, I texted Jensen. I said, Jensen, thank you very much for spending time with us. I was in another interview, and I guess people are tracking, obviously, how many minutes Jensen today, spends on each of the venues he goes. And someone told me that he spent 25 minutes on stage with me, the longest so far. But in any case, I say thank you, because together we did something that enterprises were looking for. And he replied to me back and says, Antonio, congratulations. You have taken a transformational path, the company into a transformational path. And then for me, it's all about the experience we provide to our customers. The biggest differentiation, Daisy, is about how simple we make this. Obviously, there is a lot of vendors out there that can sell server storage, some sell software, but I decided to partner with Jensen to deliver the first turnkey offer that's an experience-driven, simple, 4 configurations, using our cloud-native experience, which is HP GreenLake, bring the best of both companies, an integrated offer that ultimately allows the enterprise to deploy much faster versus others who have announced partnerships and frameworks or reference architectures, but it's still too hard for enterprises to bring it together, and they don't have the time and the expertise. That's the key differentiation. I would say HP GreenLake is a major differentiation because AI needs hybrid cloud, and HP GreenLake is the leader in hybrid cloud today. It's not just public cloud versus on-prem. You need a hybrid experience, and you need to focus on that data. And already we have 34,000 customers on the platform. 5 years ago, you were telling me that your first time covering Discover was 2019.
Yeah.
And if you recall, that time, I announced to offer everything as a service in a hybrid experience. 5 years forward, we have 34,000 customers on the platform. So now I can go to 34,000 customers, which are use and love HP GreenLake, and now they can deploy AI, not different than they have deployed any of the other solutions they consume from us.
Well, it is quite a story. Antonio Neri, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Daisy.
Well, there's certainly an awful lot to be excited about, but what will all these new developments actually mean for businesses? Joining me now to discuss that is Fidelma Russo, Executive Vice President and General Manager for Hybrid Cloud and Chief Technology Officer at HPE. Neil McDonald, Executive Vice President and General Manager for Compute, HPC and AI at HPE. And Dr. Mark Mabry, Vice President of Commercialization at Lockheed Martin. Guys, thank you all so much for joining me. We've got a lot to get through over the next few minutes. Fidelma, we have just been listening to Antonio talking about all these exciting new developments and how they differentiate HPE in AI. But how does this new initiative with NVIDIA transform or potentially transform what HPE can offer?
Well, this new NVIDIA AI Computing by HPE initiative, allows us with NVIDIA to bring solutions to market much quicker and way more tightly integrated with NVIDIA. So for our customers, they get the advantage of having HPE system, hardware and software tightly integrated with NVIDIA hardware and software. So much faster time to value for customers and greater value delivered to customers. And so we're aiming to be faster time to market and better ROI on their AI initiatives.
Okay, that explains a lot. Neil, if I can move to you, these solutions seem to be coming at a really critical time. HP recently launched a report showing that many companies seem to have really big gaps in their AI strategies. So what does HPE, what you've developed, co-developed with NVIDIA, how will that help some of those companies avoid some of those mistakes?
So enterprises are really facing a couple of different types of challenge. The first is they need a new architecture in IT to do AI workloads, and it looks nothing like the architectures that they've been building and running for so many years. And that requires a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise if, like some of our competitors, your answer is just a reference architecture or a blueprint. So what we've done with HPE Private Cloud AI is do all of that curation and integration work for our customers, co-developed with NVIDIA to pull together that whole offering, not just accelerators or compute, but also the connectivity, the data storage, the data fabric to ingest, the models, the runtimes, the workflows that enable an enterprise not to be burdened with all of that on their journey to generative AI so that they can focus on their second challenge, which is finding the use cases where they can gain productivity in their business. And there, we also help them with that because of all of the work we've done with HPE's AI Essentials tools, but more importantly, the work we've done with NVIDIA on NVIDIA Inference Microservices, which package very easy to deploy implementations of many use cases in a way that shortens the time to value or the time to experimentation for enterprises when they use a turnkey integrated solution, in our case, HPE Private Cloud AI.
Really sounds very dramatic the way that you've described it there. Dr. Mabry, if I can turn to you, you have implemented AI solutions both internally at Lockheed Martin with your customers. Have you learned lessons along the way in the way that you've integrated it?
Absolutely. So having an enterprise solution, like for example, the combined NVIDIA and HP enterprise initiative, really allows companies to go and deliver things at scale and securely. So some of the things that we emphasize are via our Lockheed Martin AI Factory is developing solutions that are open, solutions that are secure, solutions that can leverage the hybrid cloud that's provided by HPE, so that you can actually ensure that you both have security at the enterprise but also at the edge. And so the principal lesson, though, is for organizations not to hesitate, to actually dive in, be intentional about the applications you choose so you create the maximum value, either in speed or in scale, but to actually get engaged, because this has never been such a strategic transformation in the history of computing. And so it's so important for organizations to jump on board.
Neil, I saw you nodding there at the idea of diving in, but I guess a lot of customers, partners will be very concerned about diving in case they're going to hurt themselves, because it is quite a scary thing to dive into.
It's a necessary thing to dive into. We believe at HPE that every enterprise is either going to become powered by generative AI or become uncompetitive because their competitors are powered by generative AI. So there's a real imperative and a real time crunch for organizations to start building their expertise on this journey. And we made it easy for them because we've offered them various bite-sized entry points where they can start small and scale and grow with a single consistent architecture. And again, because we've done all of the curation work, we don't need them to go build all of that expertise in-house in the underlying infrastructure and its integration, because we've given them that turnkey solution co-developed with NVIDIA.
And Dr. Mabry, in your experience having done this, where have you seen the biggest impact?
So I think there are a couple of major classes of use cases. We have hundreds of use cases. So we have a couple of thousand AI developers that develop and support the 120,000 employees around the world in Lockheed Martin. And so they're really sort of in three key areas. One is enterprise, one is another is engineering, and a third's at the edge. And as we were just describing, having solutions that actually can allow you the hybrid solution, so that if you need to do something on-prem, you can do that. If you can do it in the cloud, you do that as well if you have to scale globally, or at the edge if you need to do it securely. So just a couple of quick examples. At the enterprise, in our space business, we've generated over 1,000 proposals to RFPs, which allows us to really quickly respond to opportunities. Similarly, in our just enterprise activities, we've been able to provide 17 large language models to the entire 120,000 people in the company. So they can do things like, we have hundreds of thousands of requests for our F-35, fighter in terms of, status on parts, on readiness, and we can actually open up that knowledge to our customer base as well as our employees. Engineering, another major category. We can actually use large language models to help convert language to actually engineering models and quickly accelerate the design and discovery phase. For development, 30% improvements in coding in a variety of languages. And finally, at the edge. We've been doing exciting things like, for example, bringing AI to the F-16. We now have collision avoidance systems, which have already today saved 10 aircraft and 12 pilots' lives. So to the point about jumping in, yes, there are risks of jumping in, but there are equally risks of not jumping in. Both competitive risks, but also risks to human lives. And so it's really important for us to harness this technology for the benefit of humankind.
Fidelma, it's fascinating to hear some real live experiences and some case studies of how this is all put into practice. Going forward, what can you see coming in this area?
It's amazing to listen to the use cases that have already, really come to life. And what you're going to see going forward is just more use cases emerging. We're going to continue to innovate faster with our partner NVIDIA, integrating, their technologies faster as appropriate into our curated systems. We truly believe in these co-engineered systems that are ready to run for customers, because as you can hear, what's really important is that they get to the point where they can experiment with these use cases, because that's what it's all about, is how do you use AI to further your business and get that competitive edge, while we take the burden of building those systems, reducing the time to value, having 3 clicks or 2 clicks and 28 seconds to get your models up and running. And so that's what you're going to continue to see from Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, especially in collaboration with our partner NVIDIA.
Well, I must thank you. It's been fascinating taking this story, I guess, from the sort of hypothetical, from many people's point of view, to actually the reality of the difference it can make. Really, really fascinating. Thank you to Fidelma Russo, thank you to Neil MacDonald, and of course to you, Dr. Mark Mabrey. All right, well, we've heard from HPE leadership and a key HPE customer. So let's hear what the outside experts have to say about everything HPE's announced this week. Delighted now to be joined by Patrick Moorhead, CEO and Chief Analyst at More Insights and Strategy. Patrick, thank you so much for joining me. Obviously, we've had Antonio Neri's big speech. What really stood out for you?
Well, first of all, I have to talk about the visual spectacle that the Sphere was.
Yeah.
I'd been there before, but I think this is the first keynote in history to be done there, and it paid off in dividends. And it didn't distract. What it did is it pulled me in, and I think looking at the audience, it pulled them in. Now, the content, which is the reason why I think I'm really here, is I was very surprised and pleasantly surprised at the depth of the discussion about not just the technology, but also about the customers and even the lineage that HPE has back to the garage days.
Yeah, it's interesting you saying we should talk about the substance as well as the style, but you're absolutely right. That was quite a way to kick off. It was a wow moment being in there, seeing that at Sphere. Content-wise, so there was, as you've just said, there was a lot to pick through and digest.
Oh, absolutely. I think first and foremost is what I look at, what enterprises are looking for as it relates to AI, is they want choice, right? They want AI on premises, they want AI in the cloud. Some of them want to put all the pieces together and do it themselves. Some of them want the easy button. And a lot of the reason that these enterprises want this on premises is because they want to have the capability close to their data. They want to have control. They want to have the highest levels of security and also privacy. It's the enterprise's intellectual property, and that's where a lot of the content was focused on today.
Talk me through the partnership with NVIDIA and what you make of that.
Yeah, so first of all, coming in, right, I'm here 15 times a year. Jensen's been on a lot of stages, so HPE had to come in and not only create and talk about something that was super valuable to their customers, but also do it distinctly and different. And the company did, okay? And I have to be very careful in my words as an industry analyst, but essentially it's bringing all the AI capabilities that the first movers of the public cloud, but bringing it on premises and bringing it in a very comprehensive way, meaning it's not just throwing hardware and hey, you put this together on your own, but different levels of the stack. And whether that was the control plane for the HPE private cloud, look at my cheat sheet here, HPE AI Essentials, and even a data lakehouse, all integrated together with NVIDIA technology sitting on top of HPE and NVIDIA infrastructure that you can take. You can either buy it or use it as a managed service through HPE GreenLake. So I thought it was distinctive. I need to do a little bit more research. My first glance, though, is this is a distinctive and differentiated offering.
And as you intimated there does seem to be a bit more hand-holding, rather than, as you said, you're chucking something at a customer and saying,
Yes.
now it's your problem, get on with using it yourself.
Well, and what struck me, Antonio said 3 clicks, and you're going, and I'm like, wait, 3 clicks? What do you mean here? And they, showed some screenshots, but to me, the 3 clicks was just an expression about how easy this would be, and that's because building this yourself is very difficult. You can go with a global systems integrator, which Antonio talked about a little bit on stage, but I feel like the goal of this platform is to be simple, where you can do this yourself, and that's a huge deal.
And apart from perhaps a yearning for more simplicity, as we were just talking about, what are the other challenges or problems that businesses and companies are facing when they are trying to adopt AI?
Yeah, so first of all, when you're integrating these latest versions of AI, generative AI, you're looking at mixing data sources that you didn't necessarily do before. And anytime you use data or mix data in a way, there's risk. There's opportunity, as we've seen, but there's risk that somebody who might do a query for CRM comes up and figures out how much somebody is making each year annually.
Yeah.
Spilling data that they shouldn't be getting their eyes onto, or somebody gets access to financial data that they shouldn't be able to get access to. And you can reverse engineer generative AI if there aren't things in there in place, and it gets very, very unsafe. So security is definitely one of them, which adds on to the benefit of simplicity. And I think the other one is control, which is, this is mine, it's on premises or in colo that I manage, and it becomes your intellectual property, as opposed to, let's say, farming out that capability to another company.
Yeah, well, exactly, because that actually hits 2 points, doesn't it? Farming something out stops the control and adds the risk that something might go wrong.
Yeah, I think it does now. The public cloud has gotten very, very secure. Kudos to that, but there is this control factor, and security is a part of it. Even if I look at national defense and pharmaceutical companies in terms of what they feel, what they want on premises, and I don't think anybody, if I look through history always says that the compute, the storage, and the memory follows where the data is being created, and it's the most efficient way to do it. And it's no secret, a fully optimized on-premises or even in a colo data center is upwards of 3 times less expensive to run than going out to the public cloud. Nothing wrong with the public cloud. But if you know what you want to do, you want to go at full capacity, you want that control, looking at this new HP NVIDIA private cloud AI solution is you should look at it.
Okay, well, Patrick Moorhead, a very good note to end on. Thank you so much for joining me here
Thank you, Daisy.
today.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you. And of course, thank you for watching us. You can find much more on demand on the HPE Discover More network, including all the keynotes and general sessions, or go to hpe.com for much more on the latest announcements from HPE. Thanks, Patrick.